Welcome to TrulyFit.
Welcome to the TrulyFit Podcast, where we interview experts in fitness and health to expand our wisdom and wealth. I'm your host, Steve Washuta, co-founder of TrulyFit and author of Fitness Business 101. On today's episode is just me. I do solo episodes once a week. I try to anyway. I have on interview podcasts at least once every 2 weeks, where again, I have an expert on in the fitness and health related industry, sometimes medical industry, somebody maybe even affiliated with business who's here to help us out with our fitness businesses or our health businesses. And then I have my sister on here and there, and we do a trending health episode where we go over health and fitness and nutrition related topics that are trending. And we give our sides on both of them, very PTI-esque. If you ever saw that show, it's basically two guys arguing over sports. They go down trending topics. We sort of try to mirror or copy that. Today, I'm going to be talking about the three most important things when you're starting out on your first personal training session. You as a personal trainer, or you as somebody who just hired a personal trainer. What should your expectations be? How should that initial intervention, for lack of a better term, start? And I'm going to quickly jump into all three of those and unpack each individual one. Now, I'm not going over what should happen in your personal training session. This all happens before your first personal training session. So whether you are, again, a general population person who is going to be working with a personal trainer, or whether you are an actual personal trainer, maybe you just got your first certification and you're working on your own, or you're working virtually, or you're working for a business, maybe a small business rather than a chain, and they have a little bit of leeway and flexibility as to how you set things up. This is how I think it's very important to go about it. So step number one is you should have your proper forms. You should have liability forms of some sort that your client is going to be making sure that they're looking through, and you as well. Should you meet with a lawyer first? I don't think so. I don't think that's necessary. I've had lawyers on the TrulyFit podcast before talking about the importance of meeting with lawyers if you have the money, but that there are great liability forms already online, pre-made for you. Also, if you have insurance, there's Next is a popular fitness-based insurance, but if you have insurance through yourself, right? Independent insurance. Once in a while, companies will provide that on your behalf, but it's very rare. Usually independent personal trainers have to get their own insurance. And I would tell you, I think you should get it anyway. It's cheap enough where I think you should go out and get insurance, even if your big box chain says that they provide some sort of insurance for you on site. Look over your insurance. They'll tell you exactly how sometimes the language to avoid using liability forms, but get a liability form. In addition to that, the secondary form you're going to need is something called a health history form. Well, what is a health history form, Steve? Again, something you can have AI develop for you. You can find online. I would say do a little bit of Googling and read other forms that have been made, but also you need to put a piece of yourself into this form, and I'll sort of unpack what that means. So health history form is simply going over your client's health history. And I would also put their goals on that as well. So it might start off saying, just the normal things when you go to a doctor's office: your age, your date of birth, previous injuries, any allergies, any medications you're on, and then there's a goals section. What do you want to work on? Do you work out now? Do you work out on a regular basis? If so, what do you do? Have you used a personal trainer in the past? Things of that nature, right? You can expand on that. You can make it as long as you want. Typically, they're about a page back and front. So you're going to give the client the liability waiver. You're going to give the client the health history form. I would say give that to them in advance, right? Let them fill that out. Let them send them back to you and get that back so that you can review it. Step two here, the most important part, is the consultation. You just looking over that sheet is not enough, okay? There's going to be so much that comes out in the conversation about that sheet. People, ultimately, I've done it myself, and I've had conversations with other trainers about this, and it always happens. In these consultation conversations, something always comes up that they did not write down on the sheet because they didn't think it was actually important in the given circumstances. A lot of times we downplay our own injuries or things that we've gone through in our life. Sometimes I forget that I've had 2 surgeries on my hand, that I've had double inguinal hernia surgery in the past. It wasn't a big deal at the time. I pushed it, I memory hold it into the back of my head, and I don't think about it. But you're going to come up with situations. I'll give you one right now. I had a client who I worked with. I'll give you 2 different situations. I had a client that I worked with. We went over the whole health history form. And later on, I saw that there was an issue with his gait, maybe 2 or 3 weeks in. I said, your gait seems a little bit off. One of your calves actually seems a little bit smaller than the other. He said, when I was 21 in college, I played, collegiate tennis, as I told you, Steve. and I had, fractured my ankle pretty bad, and they had a cast on me, and they back then they used to put casts on in the 70s longer than they do now. So I had a cast on for X amount of time, and my calf muscle atrophied, and my ankle doesn't feel totally great. On and on and on. It's like, well, you didn't put that on your health history form. So I needed to know that. I know that this happened 35 years ago. You don't think it's a big deal, but it is a big deal because there's synergistic dominance and compensation patterns and things that happen that only I as the personal trainer know. So every injury is important for me to know. The more information, the better. That's what you should pass on to your client. And you, as the general population, if you're working with the trainer, give them all the information possible. Everything, okay? They need to know every little tidbit because you don't know what's important to them, if that makes sense, right? You think something wasn't a big deal, but it was a big deal. I've actually had more serious things go on where my client revealed to me during our workout, maybe two to three workouts into our workout, that she had a heart attack in the past. Said, Kathy, it's not on your health history form. You can't just gloss past the fact that you had a heart attack in the past, right? I need to know these sorts of things prior to us working out. So again, you're going to have this consultation sit down with your client. You're going to go over the sheet that they gave you, the health history form, and then you're going to continue to dig. My wife calls it the what else. You keep asking, well, what else? What else? What else? Dig and dig and dig and dig. Get comfortable with the client at the time, or if you're the general population person, get comfortable with the trainer as you guys are speaking to each other, and make sure that you guys are on the same page. That's where you want to start to talk about your goals. Okay, what exactly are your goals here? Is there things that you're nervous about doing? Are there things you're more comfortable doing in the gym? And I would then walk them around the facility. Even though they've been walked around the facility before, it's always good to take multiple walks to the facility because you're going to see different people in using different equipment at different times. So maybe they stopped into the facility at 6 a.m. their first time, and now they're meeting with you at noon, right? There's going to be a different sort of look to the facility. You're going to be walk around the facility. You're going to say, is there anything here that excites you, that you might want to use, that you might want to try? There are things here that you're sort of nervous about, that you don't want to do, or that you've done in the past and you have an ick about it. Because if you're a good personal trainer, you should be able to make sure that that client gets a good workout regardless of which tools they're using, right? Your body is the ultimate fitness tool. Everything else is just toys. So if they say, I absolutely do not want to use barbells, then find a different way, right? Don't use the barbells, or at least slowly integrate them into it while you do everything else. So it's very important that both the client and the personal trainer are on the same page as far as what they're going to do, and that there's a trust level and there's that trust factor. So walk around the facility, point to certain things that you like and certain things that you don't like, or that you're nervous about, or maybe that you want to learn. So again, let me go back. First is liability waiver and health history form. Give them to the client in advance. You should be taking them in advance if you're general population. If you are the client, take those forms home, fill them out as detailed as you can. Then you sit down and have a consultation about those forms. You dig in deeper because you're always going to get more in conversation than you are on the page, on the written page. Then you walk them around the facility, re-go over their goals, what they're comfortable with, what they're not. The next step is the assessment phase. And you could even do this on the same day as the consultation. That's my recommendation. They come in for, let's say, an hour, and rather than you doing the personal training session, maybe the first 30 minutes is this deep conversation, consultation about their goals, about their health history, about what the expectations are and what your expectations are also, because you as the personal trainer need to set expectations for them. Hey, if this is your goal, right? If your goal is to lose 14 pounds in 6 months and you want to lose 3% body fat before your vacation, well, I have expectations of you. You're going to have to come in here 3 days a week. You can't come in here 1 day a week to meet this goal. It's not going to work. So we need to be meeting Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You have to be here consistently at X, Y, and Z time, or these are my low times. These are my high times. So if you're somebody who cancels a lot, you can't take these slots. You can take these slots. So make sure there's an understanding both ways, right? This strategic two-way communication. I'm a public relations major, right? That's just what we talk about. Creating and maintaining relations between an organization and its constituents through strategic two-way communication. That's just a fancy way of saying, be honest, be upfront, be truthful, and don't talk past each other. Tell each other what you both want so that you can have a successful relationship here in the fitness world. So again, assessments. This is kind of a loaded topic for some people because when you go to certifications, again, I'm the author of the book, Fitness Business 101, What the Certifications Don't Teach You. So a lot of the certification stuff, unfortunately, is just nonsense, right? It's your baseline knowledge of what you need to know so that there's a practicality of safety coming into the industry. But it doesn't mean you're going to be good. It doesn't mean you know everything, right? Time and experience is what's going to help you become a better personal trainer, really better at any job, I would argue. But There are already assessments that people teach you, like the National Academy of Sports Medicine. It might be something for lower body agility, like the shark skill test. It might be something more for like VO2 max, like the Rockport test. You can do strength assessments. There are a lot of different kinds of assessments that you can do. I would not. There's two different ways to go about this. You can do the same handful of assessments for all of your clients, right? Maybe you get comfortable with a certain amount of assessments, right? You want to assess your clients in a particular way that's important to you as the personal trainer. So you have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 assessments. And what an assessment is, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, is really just a marker of a particular variable that you're interested in that you can go back to over time to continue to measure to see if there's making progress. So it could be something simple, like just a one variable marker. It could be jumping, right? I want to see how high you can jump. I want to measure how high you can jump, and we're going to come back every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, and we're going to see if you're jumping higher. Is what we're doing in the gym helping you jump higher, right? That's a very simple assessment. Then again, there's the assessments I just talked about, like something that has more to do with VO2 max, where you're measuring heart rate and you're walking for a certain distance and you're looking at more metrics, more variables, using more electronics. That's also okay. Even something I would call like a body fat assessment, right? You're using bioelectrical impedance and holding something or stepping on a scale, or maybe you have more upgraded equipment at your facility that you can use that gives you a better, more accurate measure of body fat. But these are all just assessments. The assessments, in my opinion, should be based on your client's goal. Again, if you feel more comfortable just doing 2 or 3 or 4 assessments, maybe you do body fat assessment, maybe you do some sort of Rockport and shark skill, and maybe you do a squat assessment where you're looking not at the quality of their squat, but sort of at a quantity of maybe how many body weight squats can you do in a minute or something. Or you hop them on a leg press and say, what is the maximum weight we can get here for 8 repetitions, right? And then you come back and you measure that. But in my opinion, it should be based upon their goals. If you have a client who's just looking for long-term health and wellness, as opposed to maybe a 17-year-old who's an offensive lineman and at his high school and he's projected to play D1 football, well, your assessments are going to have to be different, right? He's going to want more strength and power. So maybe you do some sort of bench press assessment. Maybe you do some sort of deadlift or squat assessment to see where he's at, because he wants to get those numbers higher and be more explosive and be a better football player, as opposed to maybe a 58-year-old, mom who just says, hey, I'm here to start to shed a little bit of weight and just become healthier. I want my lab work to be better. I've had, high cholesterol, and my body fat seems too high, and I'm slow and I'm sluggish, and I don't feel good. My body doesn't feel good. So in my opinion, those two people shouldn't get the same assessments. But as long as you have a plan, whatever that is, again, doing all the same assessments for your clients, you get comfortable with them and you understand kind of where the markers are in those assessments and what's working and what's not, or building individual assessments based upon the client's goal. I'm making this maybe sound more complicated than it is. Again, an assessment is just a marker, some sort of marker, a number that you're starting out as a measurement so that you can go back and measure it again. Even somebody's weight, in a sense, is an assessment. You stepping on a scale is an assessment. So how intricate you want those assessments to be are completely up to you. But they're important to do so you can go back in time and see that you're effective. Now, what I will say is sometimes the more assessments, the better. I also do this with measurements. If your client wants their body, if you have a client, I would say that who's very body focused, very vanity focused, and they want to lose a certain amount of weight, I would say it's really important to do measurements. And that's a whole nother topic here I'm not going to go over as far as like how to do measurements. But if you're measuring, let's say their calf and their low thigh and their high thigh and their waist and their hips and their chest and their back and their arms, and you're measuring all these things, the more measurements that you have, the more likelihood that there's going to be some positive progress. And as the personal trainer and as the general population, you want to hear about that positivity, right? You want to be glass half full. So yeah, you don't think you're losing weight? Well, maybe it's because we're getting stronger and we are building a little bit of muscle and you're drinking more water, and you're okay. You might not be losing weight on the scale, but you lost 2 inches off of your waist and your legs are more muscular and you've lost, a 2% body fat. And you feel better. You feel better in your clothes, and you're waking up, and you have more energy. So, like, these are the things that are important. So, I think the more assessments, the better, in some sense. But then you have to remember, then you have to repeat those assessments. So that does take a lot of time. So you're going to have to start saving time in your day when you meet with people. Let's say once a month or so. Be like, hey, we're not going to be working out today. We're only going to work out, do a half a workout because we're going to do your assessments again to make sure that we're making progress. Again, to go over all three, number one, this whole conversation surrounds if you are a certified personal trainer, maybe new to the game here, or if you're general population and you're looking to work with a personal trainer on your first time, what should I expect leading into my first session? What are the important things? Number one, there should be a liability waiver and there should be a health history form filled out, given by the personal trainer to general population. Number two, there should be a consultation. That consultation should be after those forms are filled out. It should be a sit down, not only discussing the form, the health history form and everything that was written down, from the medical to the goals portion of that, but expand on that conversation. Get to know the person a little bit more, dig deeper into the questions, keep asking what else, other things are going to come up. In addition to that, show them around the facility and or ask them things they're comfortable with, things they're not comfortable with in the weight room. It could even be small things. There's going to be people who are like, hey, I don't really like to work out in front of everybody. Are there spaces we can work out in that are less crowded here? Do you have like private rooms in the facility? All those little nuances that you don't think about until you start to work out with a lot of people, then it's hard to realize what's going to be ahead. So have the conversation. Whatever's on paper isn't a tenth of what's going to come out in real conversation when you're sitting down with someone. And then lastly, going over assessments. Are those assessments going to be all the same for your clients? You just use 2 or 3 different assessments because that's easiest for you and that's what you feel most comfortable with? Fine, great. Are they going to be independent assessments that you build out based upon your client's goals, whatever those are? That's fine as well. Are they going to be variable assessments? Are they just going to have one variable? Totally up to you. I really think that the assessment conversation gets a little bit crazy here. We need to have a few assessments. You need to make sure that they're client specific, in my opinion, goal specific, not just doing random assessments. Why would you do a shark skill assessment? For somebody who doesn't care about lower body agility? That's not their goal, right? They want upper body strength or something, or they're a golfer and they want to work on flexibility and core strength. Shark skill test isn't going to help with that. So I would make them specific to that. That's really it. Your first personal training session. That's the expectations for the general public side, and I think that's the expectations you should put on yourself as a certified personal trainer. Again, Steve Washuta here. Author of Fitness Business 101, what the certifications don't teach you, 25,000, maybe 30,000 hours experience now, one-on-one personal training in the industry. Always more to learn from me, but I like to pass on what I've learned in the industry. My book, for a reason, is called Fitness Business 101. I'm not telling you how to make millions of dollars and be a successful fitness entrepreneur and start 25 chain gym. I'm telling you how to get your career off the ground, because 70% of personal trainers either never make it full-time or stay part-time or quit, right? So 70% of trainers quit. They're not personal trainers anymore. They get the certification. They don't do it after 2 years. They never make it part-time, or they stay full. They stay in the part-time role, right? So that's terrible. To go out, spend the effort, spend the energy, because why? The cream rises to the top. People get their first certification. They're so happy. They tell everybody online. They're so excited, and they make business cards, and they're ready to start the day here. Well, guess what? How do you get clients? And then you have the whole other side of the industry. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. Who teaches you how to get clients? This whole marketing angle. The problem with that is there's only so much time in the day. We don't live in a vacuum. So if you're spending all your time getting clients, if you're spending all your time being an expert marketer, you're not good in the gym. You're not spending the time understanding how to get people to their goals, because the certifications don't help you do that, right? Working with people is the only way you're going to know through trial and error how to get people to their goals. The certifications just give you baseline knowledge. So the more time you could spend in the gym, the better. Grow commensurate with your goals. Get a few clients, work really hard with those clients. Word of mouth will spread. You'll get better. You'll get more confident. Don't worry about the marketing side of this so much, okay? That's it. This is the end of my rant here. If anyone wants a copy of my book, Fitness Business 101, What the Certifications Don't Teach You, via PDF, I'll send that to you for free if you want it. And a hard copy, you're going to have to go buy it on Amazon. Thanks for listening in, guys.